What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got Better Oblivion Community Center. We got Conor Oberst and Phoebe Bridgers is what we got, and their self-titled album brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Vita. Thank you, Vita. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you would like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below. With the patron link on the end screen, we could not do it without the patrons. All right. I know a lot of Conor Oberst. There's a ton of Bright Eyes up if you want to go check those out after this, courtesy of Vita and Caitlin. Just great stuff. I great admire. Stranger in the Alps up from Phoebe, the train I did a long time ago. Love Phoebe. I think I might have listened to one or two songs off this album once I got into Stranger in the Alps and first discovered Conor, and I'm like, who's this guy? But I don't remember it. And I think maybe Dylan Thomas was the song I listened to. But little background on Better Oblivion Community. They're an American indie rock super duo consisting, I already told you, of Conor and Phoebe. They released their self-titled debut on January 24th, 2019 through Dead Oceans. Oberst and Bridgers first met in July of 2016 when she performed at a secret showcase he was hosting at the Bootleg Theater in LA. A mutual friend of theirs was helping organize the event, told Oberst that he was Bridgers' favorite songwriter in LA at the time, so he invited her to play and was so impressed he immediately asked her to send him the record she was working on. She then opened for him on his European Ruminations tour in January 2017, and I have that album up, and it is fantastic. And they continue to collaborate consistently over the following 2 years. He brought her on stage to sing the Bright Eyes song Lua, which is fantastic, at WXPN's Exponential Music Festival that July. He sang on the duet Would You Rather from her debut Stranger in the Alps in September, which that song is fantastic. He covered Sheryl Crow with Soccer Mommy at the Music Hall of Williamsburg in February 2018. They worked together on a new version of his song LAX for Amazon Music in October, among numerous other joint appearances at each other's shows across the U.S. I just wanted to tell you that because, they have this bond. It wasn't like we're going to get together and do an album. This is a long time coming, and that's important when you're writing stuff with people. The initial idea of forming the band apparently stemmed from Bridgers complimenting a cover Oberst had done of a Replacements song one night, and him replying that they should start a band and sound like the Replacements. When they first started writing together, they hadn't planned on putting out a record, and they thought they might be writing for one of each other's solo efforts or for a third party. Bridgers has said it's common for Conor to dream up, quote, fake bands, so she didn't know that he was being serious until they had written like 5 songs. They mentioned that they wanted to create a separate project with his own name so that they could feel free to create a sound different than their individual solo acts. This album has generally positive reviews. The album was teased with cryptic brochures and a phone hotline, but was released with only 1 day of official notice and featured no promotional singles beforehand. Now, you could get away with this in 2019. Pre-internet, pre-streaming era, you really had to build for an album, but now you can just drop it, right? Which Bridgers explains was an effort to avoid, quote, making assumptions about what the entire record sounds like, since the songs are each so different. So I can get that. The album's a loose concept album about the Better Oblivion Community Center, a fictional dystopian wellness facility. 78 out of 100 on Metacritic, 7.7 out of 10 on Pitchfork. So the music's not going to be in the video, but it will be at the Vimeo link below. So click on that and follow along with me. Let's get this thing kicked off. With the album opener, didn't know what I was in for, written by Phoebe and Conor. First song they actually wrote for the album, Phoebe said in 2022, we wrote about that performative activism weirdly, because I feel like we all do that. You go to a charity run, you feel very good about yourself, and then you don't think about other people for like 6 months. We were talking about how built into the world that is and how we participate in it, and it just kind of sounds like it's working at a water park or something. But hey, that's how it goes. That is true, man. In the States here, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the volunteer work, that sort of thing. That's great stuff. But, are you thinking about it the rest of the year? But, that's just kind of how this world works. But I guess at least you're doing something. So I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Always important for Conor stuff. Phoebe's a very good writer in her own right. Thanks again, Vita. Didn't know what I was in for. Just great. She talks about seeing the homeless person at the end of verse 1 and then working at the pool, but everybody seems happy, and then they just start talking about each other when they're away from each other and tearing each other down. And the sarin gas, which they're referencing probably Syria in 2011. That's a whole nother story that I won't get into, but just the horrible atrocities there. The girl who owns the boutique, who says she cries for those in need, but Phoebe basically says that's not true at all. The first chorus talking about running for cancer. I know it's not going to get the cure, but I sure do feel good about myself. So just a really, really well-written song. And their voices complement each other so well. Yeah, man, this is going to be a good album. Next up, we got Sleepwalking, written by Conor and Phoebe. All right, Sleepwalking, just a fantastic interplay. Definitely a different tempo between the verse chorus, right, which had to be difficult to play. I think that's why he's saying at the start you hear Conor saying it's hard to count, that it's impossible to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And I like they trade off verses. Is this having fun, the first chorus, or just because which one is jumping first off the faces there? And then, so Conor's chasing happiness, right, which aren't we all? And, you know, he's talked about that a lot in the Bright Eyes albums and his solo stuff. And then Phoebe's like, you like beer and chocolate, I like setting out those bottle rockets. We can never compromise, but fighting till the death keeps us alive. Why don't you stay if you're going to leave your car anyway? Spend another number blank talking. And then, of course, is this having fun? It's not like the way it was. I thought you loved this stuff, or did I make that up? And then they sing the outro together, acting insane, playing it safe. I wasn't sold on that plan anyways. Feeling afraid of making a change, hoping to last another day. I want them to stop the circular thoughts, spinning a whirlpool of forget-me-nots. I gave what I got. It came as a shock to find out I'm fine with what I've lost. So does that mean that they're fine without with this relationship breaking up? But kind of takes that turn at the end, but a really good song. Next up, we have Dylan Thomas. Conor said there's actually at the house that we recorded the record at a book of Dylan Thomas poetry sitting on the table. That was the last one we wrote for the record. It happened really fast. That was one of the ones that came the easiest. Maybe because we'd written however many songs before, so we knew the way we worked together at that point. But that was one that felt like a happy accident. And Phoebe said, I was in Los Angeles doing Boy Genius, of course, the supergroup that she is in with Lucy Dacus and Julian Baker. We did not expect to write another song. 9 songs is fine for a whole record, and Conor and I were supposed to record a couple of days later. I had some voice memo of the melody, and then Conor was thinking about a bunch of dark stuff, and we finished it in the night. Dylan Thomas, you know, Conor has so many like throwouts and shout outs to literature, poetry, his previous work. And so they're at it again on this, right? Because there's all kinds of little things. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but he said, you know, in verse 2, they're singing together, put my footsteps on the pavement, star for entertainment, 4 seasons of revolving doors. So sick of being honest, I'll die like Dylan Thomas, a seizure on the barroom floor. So a little bit about Dylan Thomas. He's a Welsh poet known for do not go gentle into that good night, and death shall have no dominion. He liked to drink. He drank himself to death at age 39. He was in a bar room in New York City's West Village, one that was often frequented by Bob Dylan, Norman Mailer, and Hunter S. Thompson. He famously drank 18 shots of whiskey in one sitting, besting a personal record in November of 1953. So obviously those are the guys I mentioned weren't probably in there at the time, but he then collapsed on the sidewalk, fell into a coma, and died the next day at St. Vincent's Hospital. So, yeah. And then the chorus, I'm getting greedy with this private hell. I'll go it alone, but that's just as well. And then at the very end, I'm getting used to these dizzy spells because Conor talked about before about having vertigo. I'm taking a shower at the Bates Motel, which Alfred Hitchcock did the movie Vertigo. He also did the movie Psycho. So I'm taking a shower at the Bates Motel. And I'm getting greedy with this private hell. I'll go it alone. But that's just as well. Just a little example of like a million different shout outs throughout verses of Conor's songs. And they're popping up in here too. But really good song. The instrumentation on this album is fantastic. The guitar work, it's just a great sounding album. Up to the 4th track, Service Road. Most of my research says, but I mean, Conor hasn't said this from what I can find. It's probably about Conor's brother, Matt, who basically drank himself to death at the age of 42 in 2016. Conor's quote was that. He basically up and drank himself to death. That's probably what this is about, but I never saw Conor confirm that. So just take that for what you want. Wow, Service Road, what a powerful song. I know Conor talks about, you know, after his brother died, he's very angry with his brother. And that kind of comes out a little bit in this. Not totally. And, you know, you get it. Like, it's just the frustration, man, of, you know, say what you mean. You say it now. Don't state your name. That doesn't count. So I might be able to throw out to AA or any sort of anonymous group that you're going to, therapy group. We got to state your name, but you also got to, who are you looking for? Thought he was doing better. A notice of final eviction. He just laughs. Always had a sense of humor. Still joking till the bitter end. Well, all those threats he made, can't walk them back. In and out of indecision, in and out of any options he once had. Farewell, so long, till the trouble that you made and hate is gone. I mean, this song it's a devastating song, man. It's a fantastic song. Every song on here so far has been great. We're almost to the halfway mark of the album. We go to Exception to the Rule. Is this going to be the exception to the rule? Is this song not going to be great like the first 4? All right, Exception to the Rule. A good song. I didn't really dig the arrangement. You got a Mellotron on there, a pocket piano. You got all kinds of stuff on there. Andy Lamaster is putting in the work, but it's basically just, they're basically lazing around. They're not working and they just want to chill. I mean, that's how I can sum it up. Still a good song, but definitely, for me, the weakest song on the first half of this album. That isn't bad because I got to pick favorites at the end. That's the first song that it's not going to be a favorite for me, probably. I don't want to give away my faves. And I guess I just did. But go to the second half of this album. We have Chesapeake, written by Conor, Phoebe, which is the whole first 5 songs were. But this one also has Christian Lee Hudson, who is on here. He's on this track on guitar, but he's on an EBow on the first track, tambourine on the third. He's on this one with guitar and pocket piano. So he was around. He was in the band. In an interview with Face Culture, Conor and Phoebe are asked about the meaning, the second verse in particular, and how the song Chesapeake came about. Phoebe explains the song came about from a jam session she and her friend Christian, were having, playing with a melody that would become Chesapeake and ranting about how the biz is depressing, especially when you see artists you think are great fall for no reason and people you think suck get huge for no reason. That's the way it is in all occupations in life, right? You're like, why is this person not better accomplished than the person that's doing really well? You're like, this person has no idea what they're doing. She tells how Conor then joined the conversation and immediately began writing all those beautiful words. She said, Conor chimes in and says, people can like what they like, but sometimes I'm shocked at what gets that treatment versus what I like. Conor sums up the thoughts about the song by saying, quote, the cream doesn't always rise to the top, in reference to the music industry and really in any industry in my life experience. All right, Chesapeake, basically about a small child or a younger child going to a concert, has the earplugs in, but on the shoulders and enjoying it all, but basically enjoyed somebody out in the parking lot. My hero plays and no one in a parking lot, even though there's no one around. He broke a leg and the house came down, a smattering of applause, a silver moon, and a cover song. So somebody busking out in the parking lot is better for them than the quote rock star, and so which kind of goes to what Conor and Phoebe said at the start there. And then the bridge, oh sweet child of mine, maybe a shout out to Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, I'm sure. But Phoebe also said about the song, she said in an interview with the Enemy, there's one song where I had the idea for it, the Chesapeake song on the record. I was like, I really want to write a song about how depressing music is. I was talking about it for kind of a long time, and then Conor completely stole the idea. Not stole it, he took over and wrote all the best lines, and I talked about it for way too long without actually doing any work. But I always joke about being like, oh man, I remember when I wrote that part. So I think the moral of the story boards and goes, if you want to get something done, mention it around Conor and he will jump in and get after it. Next up, we have My City, written by Conor and Phoebe. My City, pretty much breaking down LA is what I think. And, there's some other stuff in there in relationships and stuff. But I think breaking down Los Angeles and kind of how they haven't been able to make a real difference. Like the outro, risking it all in the game of chance, chasing love like an ambulance. So it kind of gets the love part back in there, but a good song. We got 3 tracks left. We got Forest Lawn also in there. It's Phoebe and Conor and Christian Hudson again on this one. Forest Lawn, really nice guitar work here, which was Christian Hudson, Conor, and Phoebe on guitar there. But Forest Lawn, talking about a cemetery, right? And first time they performed this in a show, I read where Conor said that this was about the cemetery that Michael Jackson was buried in, that Phoebe used to visit it when she was younger. So maybe so, Conor's singing about someone he knows, this guy, this roommate, and kind of either he shared an apartment with him or just was at his apartment, and he's always bringing these people back to his apartment to hook up. But the chorus, since you went underground, I've wanted to track you down. Since you went underground, I've wanted to dig you out. So it probably died, right? That's where you get the Forest Lawn and the cemetery. It could also just be not dead, but dead to Conor, disappeared, I don't know. But you pass out quick, you lack ambition. Why does everybody always end up in the kitchen? So, there's nothing wrong with working at a restaurant. I've worked at tons of them back when I was younger, but he's kind of talking about that. The verse 3, you used to say you wanted to end up in Forest Lawn, the two of us side by side while the teenagers drink till dawn. And of course, Forest Lawn's the largest cemetery in Los Angeles. So, really well done from start to finish. Well, I've known a few people like this. Track number 9, Big Black Heart, written by, of course, Conor and Phoebe and Adam McElwee and Ben Walsh. All right, Big Black Heart. Basically, they're our protagonists in a relationship, and then as it plays out, figures out that the other person doesn't care about them as much as they care for the other person. And that's where that outro kicks in, and the music just steps up. You've got Phoebe on a baritone guitar, and then Conor is on the other guitar. And that's where you get the all right for now. Don't want to think about it. I'm fine with hiding out. All right for now. I'll wrap my head around it. Maybe we make room for something else. Don't want to think about it. I'm fine with hiding out. So I figured out the feelings weren't exactly mutual, and going to try to kind of forget about it. I think a lot of us have been in that situation before. We're going to finish the album off with the only song that Conor and Phoebe did not write, Dominoes from Taylor Hollingsworth, and he's credited with a sample recording on here. So he wasn't there, but a sample recording. All right, Dominoes, a really well done song. I know they didn't write it, but they could have write it. Like, it fits perfectly with Conor and Phoebe's writing style. And I thought the arrangement was fantastic. You had Phoebe on the baritone guitar again, and you also have Nick Zenner, who's the guitarist for the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. He is on here as well, and he was also on Dylan Thomas. I forgot to mention that earlier. He's got a lot of stuff going on this album, as you always do with Conor albums, all kinds of instrumentation and stuff. But I thought the arrangement of this was fantastic. And, you know, he's basically talking about his depression, right? It gets dark in the morning because a lot of people are depressed. They flip their days and nights. You know, they go to bed early in the morning, like they stay up all night, and they get up when it's almost dark. And, you know, putting fear in my nose, the drugs, and trying to keep up with all my thoughts. If we're going somewhere, I'm ready. If it's just dirt, I'm not. That's the chorus. So I like that. I'm going to die, I'm ready. But basically, if it's somewhere, heaven or hell, probably. I mean, you want to go to hell, probably. I tell you this as a Christian, but, you know, they're probably saying if it's just dirt, I'm not. He doesn't want to just not exist at all. And so the song just kind of plays up through all of that. You know, it's kind of the depression and that. Phoebe gets verse 3 to herself. Coming home, I feel my heartbeat. I say I'm stoned for the last time. I do it again and repeat. Because, you know, you tell yourself, whatever your addiction is, I won't do this again, but then you end up doing it. And Conor and Phoebe together, I'm carpooling to kingdom come, so as the rapture come, into the wild purgatory, experience a magic rainbow. All you got to do is follow. There's the drug use. And if you're not feeling ready, there's always tomorrow. That's how it ends. You know, they repeat that again. So a really good song to end the album. And that is going to take me to my favorite tracks. I thought the album started out unbelievably strong. My honorable mentions, Big Black Heart and Dominoes, these last two songs. My faves, Didn't Know What I Was In For, Sleepwalking, Dylan Thomas, and Service Road. The first 4 tracks are absolutely outstanding. Then the album, as we get to my overall score, takes a dip for me. It's not bad. It just takes a dip. But I mean, it was absolutely in the 9s on those first 4 songs. So I give very, 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 very few 9s on albums that I first listened to or albums that I've listened to a ton. Like, it's rarefied air for me. I'm a really tough grader, but this one for me is going to come in at a 8.0. I'm between a 7.75 and 8.0. Got to give it the 8.0. I love Conor. I really love Phoebe too, but I mean, I really love Conor. I think they're so well suited together. Their writing styles and their vocals, it just all matches up. So I hope they do something else in the future. I mean, they're both really busy and it's tough, and I get all that, but hopefully they come back together at some point. So thanks to Vita for bringing this to us. Show her some love down below. Let me know your favorite tracks on here. And until next time, guys, I will see you.